Okay,
Let's go.
so Hamza, say something.
Shawki, I've really missed you past few months. I'm really happy to see your face again, man.
Oh man, that's the best test recording ever. Usually people say some boring stuff like the quick brown fox jumped over something. You're like, okay, man. So we are recording now. All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Stayin podcast. And today I have with me the Beethoven of AUS, Mr. Hamza. Hamza, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, and the topic for today's discussion is music. I know music is a pretty broad topic, but the interesting angle here is that you and I have very different takes on music. When I think of music, I think of songs, really. I think of artists in terms of, rock stars or bands and stuff like that. But when you think of music, you think of compositions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start off with a little background now. How old were you when not when you liked music, but when you discovered that you were actually passionate about music?
I think it goes back to I think when I was 19. So it was relatively almost 4 years now. Yeah. So 4 years when I was 19, I took a piano course here at AUS the first time. And that was the first time I'd ever seen sheet music, seen like what music is, even touched a keyboard for the first time. And after I had finished that course, I just didn't want to stop. I just wanted to continue going and going. I'd spend countless hours practicing and studying myself and yeah, I think after I did that course and then I just kept going. I didn't really stop and I kept going. I discovered new things and just kept at it. And I think within that, I discovered like a passion for, I'm like, oh wow, I actually genuinely like what I'm doing. Like I didn't think of it as a passion, but as I kept doing it, I was like, oh, this is really nice. I actually enjoy this. I can dissolve myself for hours and I don't even care. And that's when I knew, yeah, I love music.
And for those viewers who don't know, you're actually an engineering major, right?
Yeah, I'm an electrical engineering major and I
Yeah.
hold 2 minors in music and psychology.
Yeah, so he's living it the right way, guys, by the way, because I have so much respect for someone who is an engineering major but also pursues their passion. So this is really good. So this is you kind of like got into music in university essentially then, like not
Yeah,
at a very young
university.
age. It's not like you took any piano classes when you were a kid or in middle school or anything like that.
No, I started in uni. US is where it started, and yeah, that's literally it. No background, nothing.
What course was it?
I forgot the course. I think 170 piano 170 MES 170, and I took it with Natalia. Natalia, yeah, was Natalia.
That's the one that they teach you how to play piano?
Yeah, it's the interactive one. So there's 12 pianos from what I'm saying. Yeah, 12 pianos in class, 12 students. And it's a very it's a very nice class. Like everyone ends up becoming each other's friends and you'll help each other out. And it's a very
Did
nice
you have to?
class. Very,
Is this the class where you have to audition for? Like I know it's a piano.
it's first come, first serve basis.
First come first serve basis.
I was just lucky
That's
I found
great,
the
man.
course.
Yeah, I remember because a lot of times when you're looking for free electives, people are like, oh, I want to do piano or I want to do this, I want to do that. But piano is just so demanding, people hardly get it. I was actually
Yeah.
trying to get piano too, but I ended up doing acting styles instead. And yeah, that turned out pretty well for me.
Yeah, no, I've
Uh,
seen the end product videos.
yeah, so even for me, when it comes to when I started like music, I started getting passionate about music actually in my first semester, not because of a course or anything, but at the time Guardians of the Galaxy had come out,
Yeah.
And I remember listening to a lot of old, like the kind of like a big part of Guardians of the Galaxy was the mixtape and the old music, the retro soundtrack. And when I listened to some of the songs, I was like, oh, this is actually some really good music. And I was into some old music prior to then, because whenever I watched any sort of comedic videos, a lot of the punchline involved like including songs from the 70s or songs from the 80s. And like Careless Whisper was a big, when there's some sort of like cheesy moment happening, or when there's a lot of tension going on between two people, the saxophone comes in and it just makes things awkward. So I started getting into a lot of old music that way. And when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I was like, oh, this old music is kind of cool. So I went down a rabbit hole, and so much so that I started making my own like list of songs that I want for the next movie. So I started getting into music then. When it comes to actually, well, this is a question I have next, which is for the instrument. Which instruments do you play?
So I play the piano, you could say professionally, where I have played in university. I performed uh, like playing on the piano, and then the instrument that I play on the side, a lot of people don't know, is I play the banjo on the side. That I really enjoy playing. It's a kind of a shock to a lot of people, but yeah, a banjo I'm not a professional at. I'm still learning. I'm not that great at it because it's the first time I'm using a string instrument, and I really enjoy it. And it's more like just for fun, really.
So you've been playing the piano for 4 years then, right?
Yeah, approximately, yes.
And the banjo, how long have you been playing that for?
Banjo really not that long. I think you could just did you say a year maybe? Like that too. Like I just sort of learn chords and just sort of yeah. So like the reason I like I love the banjo is because I really like country music and I love instrumental country music. So basically bluegrass and so I love like a jam session. So as long as I know the chords, that I'm fine with. I don't need to like excel in it. I'm fine.
So what do you usually play on the banjo? Like, do you just play like the instrumentals, or do you play actual song covers, or what do you do?
No, so like song covers was in the beginning I did, but then I sort of just went my own path. So I would look at a really nice like chord progression, and I would like, okay, fine, let me learn these chords if I wanted to jam with someone. So like a blues scale and stuff like that. So I would just start learning like jam sessions by myself, going like, okay, if I ever do, I know I can play this at least. Yeah.
That's cool. Uh, so you also mentioned the first you performed on stage already
Yeah.
in university.
Yeah.
How long after you got into piano did you decide to perform on stage? And talk to me about that experience, like the first time performing as a musician on stage. What was that like?
So the first time we performed was, I think it was it's not at the top of my head right now, but I know that it was almost approximately a year after I had taken a year and a half actually after I had taken my first piano course. So what happened was after I finished my piano course, I had injured my hand for a while, so I couldn't actually play the piano for about 2 months. So I had to delay one semester, so that was off, and then I came back into it, and then my professor was like, "Yeah." So I think it was maybe fall 18, I think maybe. Fall 18 or fall 17. I'm confusing the dates right now in my head. I think it's fall 17, I think, not fall 18. But I'm not entirely sure. But it was one of these years. And basically what happened then was, so when we take a course, when we go further deeper into in our music, in our lessons, we get these one credit courses that are called applied lessons. And the requirement for those, especially for piano students, is that you have to perform it twice in the semester. It's a requirement for your course. So now we have three recitals throughout the semester. So the second one is usually where the pianists and the singers get together and they're all of them are performing. So this was the first time I was going on stage, and my professor comes to me a week before and says that you're going to be playing two pieces, which was one of them was by Clementi. It was a sonatina, and one of them was by one of my favorite composers. It was from Bach, which was an Invention number 8. So I remember the fact that there was a lot of pressure that it's not just one piece, but two. So I was like, okay, for the first time, it's quite a bit. So I remember just like the week prior, I used to be very nervous every single day climbing up to that experience. And then like as the days went past, my nerves are getting worse and worse. and then our professor would make us perform in front of her other classes to get ourselves used to it. And we'd mess up, and then we keep going. And then I remember then the day came for the recital. And then I remember I used to ask one of my friends to stay with me while I was practicing because I was just too nervous. And then they would start like commenting on my like playing, and they would like try to fix things that were there. And then the day of the performance came, and I remember I had asked my parents to also come to this one because it was the first time. And then I remember like it was around 12 o'clock, and then the nerves start kicking in. And that was when I was like, oh, this is actually happening. And I'm like, I was trying to avoid trying to face reality for a week, but this is actually happening. And then around 1 o'clock, 1:30, I came back to dorms. I changed clothes into the formal, everything. And then it was like, oh shit, it's actually gonna happen. Like
You're wearing a tuxedo.
No, I wasn't. I was just wearing a formal shirt and pants because I try not to wear a blazer because it was the first time I was playing, and I did not want my hand to get limited by like the stretch.
Sleeveless. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was like, no way. So I came back, I changed, and then I went back to arts. And then I remember before the recital started, I never went through that procedure before. So they just keep you backstage, just sitting in the green room, and you're just waiting, and then you hear people stepping in, and Dr. Sherry comes out, and then she announces it's beginning. And then when that happened, my hands were really sweaty. Like I remember it was crazy. I was literally in another world. I was not like in that world. Like in reality, I was just out of it. Hands were sweaty. I kept shaking. I whenever
Knees weak, arms are heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. So I remember just telling telling my professor, I'm so nervous, like I can't. And she's like, look, just take it easy. Do your best. That's what matters. But it was very nerve-wracking. It was a huge mistake telling all my friends and my family to come and watch me that day. I should not have done that. I think that was the worst thing I've ever decided to do. Because I told all my friends, oh, hey, I'm performing. And then everyone comes because they're excited to see that. And my parents as well came in. And it was
why is that a bad thing? Isn't that, it's a good thing because they want to support you. So
yeah, you support you, but at the same time, you feel like you want to put out a good show for them too. So it's like
shouldn't that motivate you? Like, okay, they're here now. I have to perform my best.
I don't know. It all worked opposite for me. I was just more stressed because so in the curtains we can sort of peek and they won't notice, but we can see, and it was completely packed. So everyone else they were all there, and it was crazy. I was already nervous as this, and it was just crazy seeing the whole place packed. And then I think then like my name came up. I went, I sat down. I just for the brief second when we were adjusting the chair and everything, I just prayed. I'm like, God, please help me, be with me. Everything will be fine. And then I played my first piece. I remember, I think I messed up in the first piece a bit. But, like after that first piece ended and the applause came in, it was very fulfilling. I was like, oh, I did something rewarding. And, then the second piece came in, and the second piece was actually harder. It was way technically harder. So when people were happy with that, I was like, oh yeah, this is actually fun performing on stage. It's not as bad as what people say. It's actually very rewarding. I enjoy it. It's like you share this experience with other people. And while you play, it's like you're not thinking about anything, man. It's like it's a very hard experience to describe when you're on stage. It's like when you're performing your music, it's either one of two things. You're either so focused on what the audience thinks of you that you end up screwing up everything, or you're just so dissolved into what you're doing, and that even if you mess up, it just looks like it was part of the piece. No one's even going to notice unless you have some musicians in the audience who have played the piece, who know the piece, or your own professor. They know you're going to mess up. But
absolutely, I think that's so true. Like in anything, like if you're performing like a song, I feel like the person performing the song is more aware of the mistake than the audience. Like the audience may not even notice. It's very important not to break the flow, I think. If you just keep the rhythm, then no one will notice, really. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely, you're right. And then like even like how you contain your facial expressions, your hand movements, and your body matter a lot. And I remember, so that's the thing, and then like after that, I remember I told myself like that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And it was, and it really, I guess, it really humbles you as a musician when you go out on stage and perform, because you remember that, you know, everyone is just practicing and everyone is just trying their best. And it's a
Yeah.
very, very feeling, and it's and I think just I don't know, like that. I think I just missed that. Like I just ever since COVID has happened, I just missed that experience and that thrill. But yeah, you know, I missed it. And then after that, I just loved going on stage performing. I never felt nervous. I never felt anything. Maybe the second time I went for the set, I was nervous. But the third, fourth, fifth, I was fine.
Like
Completely.
the kick kind of overpowers the nervousness, I feel like, you know, the
Yeah,
end result. So yeah.
exactly, exactly. I felt like I had control over the stage, control over the people who were sitting there. I knew what I was doing. I knew that what I was doing was hard to begin with. I knew that I'm gonna mess up maybe, but how I cover it is what really will make and break me. It's like, what am I gonna do then? You know, and I've gone like many performances where I've made mistakes, but no one notices, no one cares. You know, they just care about how hard my hands look while they're moving. They don't really care about what's being played. It's a sad truth, but this is just how it is. And you know, there's very few musicians as compared to other majors. You know,
What was your parents' reaction to the first performance?
my mom and dad were relatively shocked. They thought that I think mentally they thought I was gonna play something like "Mary Had a Little Lamb" or something like that.
Mary had a little. My son playing. He plays Bach. He plays like, you know, Moonlight Sonata. Dun, 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 dun.
So they didn't expect that. So my dad was like, "Oh, I didn't think you played such hard pieces." I'm like, "That's actually." I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm gone from that stage of like learning these single pieces. And yeah, and after that, like I was just well into it. And my parents, I think after that, my parents even understood like I'm really passionate about this. Even my room, it's just filled with sheet music books everywhere. And I just got obsessed with reading sheet music with composers and studying their music. Yeah, I think
You,
very
you know, when you mentioned your favorite pieces, right? You said something by Bach, and you said number 8 or something. And then you said something else. What did you say? Bach and what else?
it was Clementi, Museo Clementi.
Yeah, I don't know. I know such limited names because my knowledge from classical music comes from Looney Tunes. When I watch a Looney Tunes episode, and if I like a song, I'm like, oh, what is this? So that's how I know about Ode to Joy. I know For Elise by Beethoven,
Yeah.
right? For Elise. And then I know Moonlight Sonata. Then I know something Mountain King. I don't know what was that dun, 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 dun. Everything from Looney Tunes. That's how I know this stuff. So yeah, I'm very weak when it comes to talking about those compositions. That I don't know how to read sheet music at all. Like because when we first talked about music during rehearsals, I'm like, oh, okay, so you must be doing piano covers. They're like, no, I do this thing, and I'm like, oh, dude, this guy's like the hardcore music guy. This is like Ryan Gosling from La La Land, basically.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
yeah.
okay, this guy. For me, like I said, I started listening to music like differently in my freshman semester, and I had a very deep relationship with music. I still do, and I always found myself being intrigued by old music because the appealing aspect of old music is that the vocals kind of overpower the music and instrumentals, which is what I don't see much of today. There are a few artists today that have really good vocal range, but everything has become really like digitalized today. So it's more like if you have the right equipment, you're a musician, not if you have the talent. And I feel like a lot, if I listen to an acoustic version of a song of an artist, then I can really tell if that artist is talented or not. And I was listening to a lot of acoustic versions of just normal covers on YouTube, and I would be like, wow, this is really cool, and I really like the people who are playing guitar and stuff. And I remember my roommate at the time when back in 2015, there was these posts, like, you know, when events happen, they put some posters in the dorms, and he's like, oh, there's a poster for a talent show, why don't you go perform? And I told him, yeah, what am I? I'm gonna grab a guitar and I'm gonna sing. That's what I'm gonna do. And he said, oh, you play guitar? And I said, no, I don't play guitar. When I was in fourth grade, I asked my dad to get me a guitar, and he got me an electric guitar. And the only reason I wanted a guitar is because it made me look cool, right? I tried learning the guitar, but I'm a fourth grader, you know, my fingers didn't even develop properly at that time. So I couldn't even hold the guitar because it was so heavy. It was like, it's this cherry red guitar. It's a white and red Fender, basically. I couldn't play
Okay.
it. I tried getting a teacher, and I did maybe 2 weeks, like a week of classes, and he was telling me these simple things like, okay, play Baba Black Sheep or something on the guitar. I'm like, I don't want to play Baba Black Sheep on electric guitar. Like that's the wimpiest thing you could do, play Baba Black Sheep on electric guitar. So I wasn't even passionate about music when at that age. So I was like, oh, I want to look cool. This is too much effort. I'm not gonna play the guitar. And then what had happened was I never considered picking up the guitar until I guess it was fall 2017, where I just decided to buy a guitar. I bought my first acoustic guitar because I was into acoustic music. So when I bought the guitar, I was like really motivated. Like, okay, this is it. Now the guitar. The first time I touched the guitar, it's gonna be magic. And I touched the guitar, and it had such an awful sound. And I got so discouraged by the sound. I'm like, no, I'm not playing guitar again. I'm not playing guitar again. So I abandoned the guitar again after just trying to strum it once. I'm like, I'm not playing the guitar again. And then I think in like the in fall 2018, like 1 year later, I had the guitar back here. You know, when I would come back to visit my family in Saudi from campus, I would see the guitar. I'm like, okay, let's pick this up again. And I went on YouTube to find a cover, like a tutorial. And the first thing he said is that make sure your guitar is tuned. And I said, wait, what's tuning? So I didn't know you had to tune your guitar before you played your guitar 1 year back. So when I was strumming and it sounded awful, it was because it wasn't tuned. So I thought people, when they sell instruments, they have to tune your guitar and then they sell you the instrument. So I understood how do you tune a guitar? I downloaded the app. And then when I strummed, I'm like, oh, the chord actually sounds nice. So I only knew one chord back then, and I would just strum that one chord, as people would walk, like, hey, I can play guitar, I'm strumming this one chord. And I wanted to learn, but I was still discouraged because I was like, I can't do this. And in spring 2019, what had happened was I had my guitar with me. I just took my guitar with me this time from Saudi to UAE, and there was this acoustic barbecue night. There were these pamphlets, and I just got a little. I want to force myself, so I wrote my name to perform on stage, and I had never performed on stage prior to that moment in university. So my first performance was me playing an instrument I didn't know how to play and singing simultaneously. And I just did it out of like now it's like a do or die situation. So I'm gonna put myself out there. I'm gonna do this, and then I started practicing, and that's when I learned my first three chords, and I played a Arctic Monkeys song on stage. And again, like it goes back to what you said, which is that you have this impression that everyone on stage is a pro, but really people are just trying on stage. And that was a really good experience. And then I dropped the guitar again after a while, which I'll get to later. But I only started practicing it consistently as of February of this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been so basically ever since the pandemic started, that's when I started playing guitar.
Yeah, man, I mean, that's a good, I mean, still, regardless, at least you're taking advantage of what's happening around you, and they're at your benefit. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, man, it's tough. Like learning an instrument is not an easy task. It is a very difficult task. It requires a lot of patience, dedication, and commitment. It is a very tough thing to do. It's
yeah,
lots of people. What puts them off is that I feel like the expectations are too high when they pick up the instrument. So like
exactly.
a lot of people come to me after performances saying, "Oh, how do you do that? How can I do that?" I'm like, well, if you're willing to practice a long time, you can do it, But when I tell them, if I detail the hours that I have to practice, they're not going to do that. I know that for a fact. But I tell
Yeah,
them, learn pieces that you want, understand what you want from this instrument. Don't look at people who are better than you just because you want to play in what they're doing. Maybe what they're doing is easier than maybe what you want. You don't know. But if you don't know the technical abilities, you'll never understand where you are, you know? And that's the thing, like, and anything that you like to do, like, baby steps are very important. You will get there slowly, slowly. But, you have to go through the stage of learning Twinkle, Twinkle, Baba, Black Sheep. You will always go through these stages, no matter what instrument you pick up, because those are like your building foundations, your notes. Like you said, how you played one chord for a while. That's how a lot of piano players start. We only played with one hand. It's taken like equivalent. It was just boring. It was just one melody on your hand and that's it. So it takes time, and I think this patience thing is very important. And I feel like that understanding that your expectations will take time in an instrument, that's the essential part. And that to get to that expectation, your dedication is very important. Your commitment to that instrument. You know, as you keep doing that, as you keep practicing, as you keep remembering that, oh yeah, once I get there, then I'll be satisfied. But truth is, you'll never be satisfied with what you have. You will always want more harder pieces that you can do, but you'll just keep trying and trying and trying. So I think that patience is a huge key when it comes to music. And patience for me involves like your dedication, commitment, and I would say um, like a third aspect would kind of be yeah, like how humble you are towards that field of, because your dedication can take you places, but if you're going to be competitive in a negative sense, it's not going to take you far. Being humble with your progress is also just as important. You have to understand that just because you are better than the version of you were yesterday, you can play this harpy, doesn't mean that you're better than everyone else as well. You still have a lot to learn. Grounding yourself is very important as well when it comes to a field that, requires you to be humble, because that's just the sad reality of art, is that in general, like, there will always be someone better than you and something that you like doing. It's just how it is, because if there's not, then we're never going to grow as society. It's going to be stuck at one point. All these famous composers, some of them, they didn't like each other and whatnot, but that's just the truth. Like, being humble towards it, being dedicated and being committed to it, these all come under, for me, under patience, and that's really key for me.
You kind of answered this question because this is one of the questions I had at the end, which is what advice would you have to someone who wants to learn an instrument? But since you brought this up right now, yeah, I agree with everything you said in terms of patience, and like, don't kind of compare yourself to someone else because you don't understand how many hours they've spent or how skilled they are. And how I look at the whole instrumental learning, the approach I have is that similar to when I was trying to work on my graphic designing skills, which is that, like, have a attainable goal in mind and kind of build towards that goal. And so when you set your next goal, because you already have one goal that you kind of completed, the next goal becomes easier. So in the sense that, for me, my first goal was I want to be able to play this song. And this song uses three chords, right? Three open chords. So it uses A minor, it uses a C chord, and uses E minor. And I don't know any of these three chords. So the first thing I need to do is I need to practice how to play three chords. And, if you want to sing, play, and you have to do three things. You have to sing, you need to know the chords, and you need to know the strumming pattern. My first performance was just downstrokes, right? So I was focusing on learning the chords. But now that I learned that one song, the next song that I want to learn, let's say it has five chords. And of those five chords, if I know two chords already, then I just need to learn three chords. So I learn, like, I build on whatever I know, and it's like baby steps, like you mentioned. And,
Exactly.
that you keep repeating that process, because I feel like, when people start, at least when people say, like, I want to take a class in learning a guitar, that works for some people, but you can also learn a lot of these things on your own because of how much information you have. And at least if you don't want to pursue it professionally, you could still do it professionally too. But in the sense that I feel like there are a lot of people who kind of scam you when it comes to teaching anything in the arts, especially music. I remember when I first picked up the guitar, I was actually initially considering taking classes for the guitar. And I reached out to this guy and I asked him, hey, so, like, can you teach me, and what do you charge and stuff? And his response was, yeah, I'll make your dreams come true. Literally, that's what he said. I'll make your dreams come true. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of shady and stuff. Like, I don't really want to. And I just started watching YouTube videos and started kind of emulating whatever I saw. And it's all about practice, man. Like, you practice, the more you practice, the more confident you get, and you just keep building off of that stuff. And because you have this goal in mind, once you finish that goal, you have that satisfaction. If I was, like, let's say, learning Baba Black Sheep, right? I'm learning a chord for Baba, like, okay, like one string, two string, like this is the E string, okay, this is the G string, okay, this is the A string. And I'm like, okay, when do I actually get to play a song? But if you kind of look at it in a way where I need to play this song, and the process of trying to play the song, you understand what you need to know. So and since you, like, attain that goal, it kind of encourages you also. That's how I look at the whole learning
No,
process.
completely right, man. I think, and you also came on this topic of how you dissected pieces. So when you said you did this song was for five chords and you knew two, you've already dissected a piece in an easier form, and I think that's what's important is that sometimes we look at stuff, it's hard, but it turns out you actually know maybe more than half of it.
Yeah, true, very true. And you get that satisfaction. They're like, oh, I already know some of this stuff, so I don't have to. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to work on this piece and stuff. But yeah, uh, what are some of the artists, or who are some artists and composers you like?
Oh, that's a hard one, man. You dead or alive?
Both.
Okay, well, dead is gonna list is endless to be honest, but I think there have been some like fathers for me, father figures in music that I generally always will look up to. Obviously, Bach is one composer that uh, I have started with the easiest pieces in piano repertoire with him, and some of the hardest pieces that I've done in piano repertoire are also Bach. It's like he has genuinely taught me how to develop grains in my hands and independent systems, and it's crazy how intense his pieces can be. But I just love his music. I love how he, you know, just the voicing in his music and everything is just very very fulfilling when you and can end up playing it, and it's just very like, especially when you can study his pieces and when you understand what he's actually doing, it's just beautiful to see how systematic and how mathematical it can be, even though it does to a lot of people it wouldn't make sense, but it's just so organized and it's just beautifully done. um, then I love one of my other favorite composers, Chopin. He's the romantic composer. I love his pieces dearly. My last semester, I was supposed to play two pieces by one of them by Chopin, one of them by Bach, actually, for my last ever performance, which
Oh
unfortunately did not
man.
happen.
Or
But
at the
yeah,
Piano Palooza?
no, not unfortunately not that. It was going to be I think that semester was soiree musical, where all the choirs also perform and everything. So Frederick
How do you
Chopin was
spell
like
this
a
guy? This composer you talked about? How do you spell his name?
Chopin.
Oh, okay, Chopin. Okay, I'll remember it as a champion, and then they'll correct me. So that's how I remember it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's an amazing, amazing composer. I love his music so much. He was one of the first major composers I also played on the piano. I forced myself. I actually played his first piece behind my professor's back, and I performed it in front of her. She wasn't allowing me to play his pieces before because they were too. They were. She would always deem stuff too hard for me. But
She wasn't allowing you to play romantic pieces, huh?
no, no, she would always go by how you need to develop these things, blah blah blah, and then I used to just go behind
So
her back.
what was her reaction then?
She was critiquing it, but I think she was quite impressed that I actually ended up trying. These are not like easy pieces to just go out and go like, yeah, I'm going to learn the music.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I mean, the list is humongous, man, especially for dead people. But I mean,
Yeah,
there are a lot
the
of.
same is for a lot of old music also. Whenever my parents are like, whenever
Oh
I'm
my
singing a
God.
song and my parents say that's a good song, like, so who sang it? Like, oh, okay, I'm like, it's from 1977, and then they just make a face like, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, why do you listen to music from dead people and stuff? Like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, it's good music.
Um,
But
I
aside
think
from compose, go ahead. Sorry.
there was just one other composer that I think that has made a huge impact was Claude Debussy. He has really, really good music. He's taught me how to do music sort of in a dreamy sense, and a lot of his music is very dreamy. That's probably, I think, these three, and then there's Rachmaninoff as well, the Russian romantic, and it was crazy, the same thing. I look up to many, but I think these four, like right now, are just on the top of my head because I'm just remembering their music. But yeah, I think those four. Yeah, and alive. I mean, if you want me to get into that, I can too. But
Please, alive. Hans Zimmer.
yeah, for sure. Hans Zimmer is like my all-time. I love him so much. It's literally one of my dreams to just meet him one day and just kind of study with him. Like, not even just meet him just so I can meet him. No, to study with him. Like, I want to genuinely learn from him. There's Eric Whitacre. I love Eric Whitacre a lot. He's for choral music. You have Max Richter. You have there's a band called Hammock. I love their music so much. They make sort of this dreamy music that I was talking about. Um, yeah, they're top of my head. It's hard to think about, but like there's many, man.
John
There's just
Williams.
Exactly, John Williams. There we go. John
Yeah,
Williams is like,
you're a Star Wars guy, so it'd be a crime to
yeah,
not mention his name.
yeah. That's actually just childhood. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Jaws. It's crazy.
Jurassic Park was also him, or
Jurassic, exactly, Jurassic
Jurassic
Park
Park
as well.
also him? That's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of this guy, but if you've seen Moonlight, the composer of Moonlight is pretty good. I don't know the name though. Do you know the name by any chance? Yeah, the
Moonlight
movie
is
Moonlight. Not Moonlight Sonata.
uh,
Like there's a movie called Moonlight, and there's a composer. Because I remember like it was pretty popular, and one of the top comments of that song was "Be careful, Hans Zimmer." That's what the top comment was.
Moonlight. I'm afraid I haven't watched the movie.
Yeah, it was a very good piece.
You remember
Um,
the?
I can kind of look it up right now if I can kind of see Moonlight. The middle. Let me see who was it by. I've got the ad. I'm gonna edit this part out. Don't worry. Nicholas Brittle.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just searched that too. Oh, okay, I've
You
never
know the
heard his
guy.
music. Yeah.
The middle of the world. I think that's the name of the track. Really nice.
Okay.
What about like you mentioned? Obviously, you're passionate about compositions, but like bands and artists. Do you listen to any bands and artists too, or you're not into that stuff?
Uh, that's a tough question, man. I used to listen to Linkin Park and 3 Days Grace a lot. So that counts.
During my
Yeah,
teenage years, basically 3 Days Grace, Pain,
a
Animal I
lot, man.
Become.
Oh, beautiful. Never Too Late.
Never
And
Too Late. What
I mean,
else was the 3 Days Grace? Break, right? Break was 3 Days Grace. Yeah,
Fallen Angel.
yeah. I was more Linkin Park guy though than a 3 Days
Oh,
Grace
me too.
guy.
Yeah, I like Linkin
Yeah,
Park more. 3 Days Grace was the second option, but Linkin Park will always be first.
I still like some songs of Linkin Park though. Like I still like Pieces.
Amazing, amazing stuff. Especially their last album, sadly, before Chester had.
Just
Uh,
yeah.
Even that album, a lot of people, fans didn't like it. Honestly, really liked the music. It had a very calming tone to it for some reason. But yeah,
Uh, Based on the conversation we just had right now, you seem to be very passionate about composing and music and the performing arts.
yeah,
And from what I know about you, you're also someone who takes his faith very seriously.
yeah.
And a lot of times there's this conflict between this desire to be an artist and also this desire to take your faith seriously. How do you navigate between those two things, and how do you strike a balance, or what's your thought process on that stuff?
Well, I mean, look, like yeah, like I take faith seriously. Like I'm not an extremely religious person as well. I just have a middle sense. I do what is required, and that's it. Like I don't have a extreme view of anything. But I do. I like faith is a very fundamental part of my life, and for me, it's very. It has been a huge part for a very long time now. And I've also had, this thing in my mind where I was thinking that when I was getting, especially when I was getting to composition, I was like, what am I like? I know I've heard this many times, especially being Muslim, was that, is it even allowed what I'm doing or whatnot? Because of what you hear since school, that music is not allowed, music is this, music is that. And then in my experience, man, like the more deeper I've dived into music, the closer I've actually gotten to my religion at the same time. And that's how I felt like it was okay. Like every time every time I pray, I always, ask for guidance in whatever I'm doing. It's like I always just sometimes I get lost in my own work and I don't know what I'm doing. And every time I've made music, every time I've done it, it's like I've come closer to my religion and realized how, you know, I always wanted to be a part of what I'm doing. And, every time, like, I remember if once during a performance, uh, so before I sit on the piano and I start playing, I always say Bismillah and I start playing. And I remember, I remember I was telling one of my friends that, and they just started laughing. They're like, "Isn't that ironic?" And I'm like, No, I'm like, it's not. I'm like, we've made it ironic. Like, I don't see why I can't do that. I'm like, I genuinely am working hard towards a field that's bettering people. I don't see how people can just deem that as wrong. Like, yeah, I understand the argument about music in a wrong sense. Don't get me wrong. There is music out there that's just plain horrible. You know, like you've heard hip hop these days and how it's just completely has changed and how kids have been listening to it have just been, you know, like children these days are just growing up on hip hop artists that genuinely have no meaning in my eyes. You know, like, as opposed to like rappers and hip hop artists that we grew up with. There was a different time. You know, like rap actually had a meaning, and you know,
Like rap
especially
had struggle. It was about struggle, and now it's about money, drugs, and women. Yeah.
exactly. You know, like Linkin Park, for example, it was, you know, mixing rap and rock, you know, the first time it was ever done. But that music had so much meaning, which is why so many of us can relate to Linkin Park was that it's beautiful, you know, like how the words, the music, it was just amazing. You know, a lot of people, the reason people like Tupac was that, yeah, you know, his music was about struggle. A lot of people loved Eminem because his beginning was just about him rising to the top and how he, you know, battles his, you know, inner demons and stuff like that. This was actual music. This was music that you go like, yeah, you know, it has meaning. It has a sense of that belonging that I can relate to this. Music now obviously is awful. Like you said, it was just about women, drugs, money, and stuff like that. I can see if people like that, that's on you. But I can see where people could come in and say that this is wrong because it does send out a wrong message, you know. And yeah, it's true. I am a huge believer that art is a form of giving out messages. It always has been throughout history, through musical theater, through art, through so like paintings and whatnot, sculptures, music, through every form of art. It has been a form of reflecting the society or sending a message of a revolution or whatnot. It always has played a huge part. So, you know, it's like that I understand that argument. But like I said, I usually don't dive deeper into that side of the argument because people go like, no, you know, music is subjective. People go like, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's subjective, it's fine. That's my opinion. I feel like the music now is just not the music I would want to listen to. You know, it's just like I just don't find any meaning to it. I find it like in a musical sense boring and just irrelevant. It's like there's nothing to listen to. I'm like it's just you know a simple chord progression and a beat that you like listen to over some person who's auto-tuned themselves. I'm like I don't see an artistic value to them, you know, and that music is there. Anyways, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, you know, and then like I come back to it like classical and all of that, and it's like really, man, like honestly, you know, sitting down before I play the first note, saying Bismillah, like it always has told reminded me that you know, like you know, no matter what I do in life, it's like I am still putting in hard work for what I am doing, you know, and I've always felt like the closer I go into religion, the further I've gone into music as well, you know, and I always keep that there is like, you know, I always pray whenever I do. And it's like, you know, I always tell God that, you know, whatever is meant for me, just open those doors up. And I felt like more doors have opened up in music than any other field for me, you know, and I've always felt this sense of giving back to the community through music. And, you know, I've felt so many like good comments coming in, especially with new music coming out. It's like, oh, you know, this is really nice. I love listening to this and all that. And like, you know, it's just something I like doing. And yeah, you know, I think that's basically it. Is like I just always have. I've never related them, but one of them has always helped me go further into the other. You know, and you know, even like your composers like Bach and all of and you know, like Bach, a lot of his choral but his chorales are religious texts. You know, from Christianity. You know, and I always used to wonder this, and I was just, I remember once thinking, I'm like, you know, these people, like Christians, they have these people who have represented their sacred texts. How come we've never had that? Like, why are we stopping? I'm like, what's wrong here? You're glorifying God. Like, why? How is that even a wrong thing? You know, in a very, and you're not glorifying God in a wrong sense, in a very beautiful way. It's like you're singing about it and you're harmonizing it. It's beautiful. And then I realized, like, you know, there are many aspects of music in our religion that we just don't realize. Like the simple thing, like the adhan, is if you have someone who can beautifully recite the adhan, it's mesmerizing. Like you get dissolved in it. You know, if you have a person who recites Quran in an amazing way, you can keep listening to it. It's just beautifully done. And that moment, what it taught me was how delicate our texts are as well, and how respectfully you must also be able to approach them and recite them and carefully, actually beautifully say them. And it's the same process as if you were to do anything in art form. You approach it with respect, understand why it's there, understand the meaning, let it relate to you, and then you perform it. It's the same thing as reciting something. You look at it, you understand it, and then you recite it, and then it really speaks to you. And it's like, when I found this relations, like obviously what I'm saying are my opinions. Not everyone's going to agree with me, but like this is what I've seen, is that it's just a beautiful thing when I can understand that our religion has these incorporating factors that people just don't realize. They don't want to agree on them, but this is just the true fact. I mean, you're never going to have someone reciting Quran in a monotone voice. That's number one. Okay, no one will be bothered to listen, and that's true, because like we're humans at the end of the day. We get bored if we listen to something monotone for the next 15 minutes. We don't want to. Having those having this beautiful voice to recite a sacred text, that's what makes it very, like, yeah, this is beautiful, this is amazing. Like and a simple thing like the call to prayer can be said like that. If it's monotone, a lot of people end up ignoring it, but when it's beautifully recited, you actually like you actually just end up listening to the whole thing. And it's just how it is. It's just how our minds are functioned, is that we don't enjoy monotone tones, and it's just a fact. And that's why we've had this argument many times in our arts building as well with people, and and this is always the factor, is that people just are not willing to accept it. But these are just straight facts, that this is what it is. I'm like, the simplest argument is that if you just recite in a monotone or in a beautiful voice, which one are you going to prefer? And yeah, and this exploring more and then going deeper into into our religion as well. Like in prayers and everything, I realized how, you know, uh, it's just helped me get into music more. Every time I was going through a bad day, it's like when I would pray, it's like after like that, I was just like, something in me just wanted to go and make music, and I just feel better. I would always just thank God for every single moment, because I was like, if I didn't have this, I don't know what I would be doing. And I remember our admin assistant in the arts program. She wrote, I think, her master's thesis was about how performing prayer was an act in theater, and it was a very interesting topic. And when I was reading, and I mean, obviously, I'm not like theater. I can't speak much on that. It's not really my field of expertise, but and it was that, and she was explaining how when we perform this prayer, and it's like there is a specific standard that we have to meet when we perform it. You cannot just go up and just perform it. You have to clean yourself, and there's all these prerequisites that you have to do. And I was just thinking about it. I'm like, that's the really cool part about art in general, is how when you relate it to religion, you see these aspects of how beautifully we have to handle our religion too, to be able to perform it well, to be able to do it well as well. It's like there's respect in every field, and that's how I've always seen it, is that every time I've dwelled deeper into my art field of arts, I've gotten closer to religion as well. I've understood how truly beautiful it can be, and how not just that, but man, I feel like my religion has motivated me to become a better person and to do better in the fields that I'm doing, especially when it means giving back to the community that I'm in.
Yeah, you mentioned like everything you said, beautifully articulated, and the whole point where you said that art kind of brought you closer to religion. In my experience, the opposite is also quite true, which is when I was when I was being conflicted and I stopped playing for a while. It was not that by stopping to play the guitar, I was growing closer to my religion. I was just a more dull person then, and I feel like, when you mentioned this thing where in your prayers you ask God to open the doors that are best for you, right? And a lot of doors to music was opening. And I feel like everyone has a passion inside them, right? And I don't think a passion is something you're tested on. I feel like when there's something very close to your heart, it's a calling and it's not a test.
Mm.
So if you have this drive to perform, or this is my thought process right now. Maybe it's my opinion, maybe I might be wrong, but if you have a passion to play an instrument, or if you have a passion to perform in front of an audience, and if you're talented enough to do those things, then this is a gift you've been blessed with. And like every gift that you've been blessed with, you have to make the most of that gift, and you have to ask for guidance to best harness those skills and not just improve yourself, but improve the people around you.
Absolutely. Nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Do you have
that's really it. Yeah.
anything else to add?
Yeah, no, really. I think I know that there are many people out there who have this, and obviously in our societies it is still an issue. Arab, South Asian, Muslim societies in general, basically, about music and still it being sort of a taboo subject and topic. But I see it growing. I see people, living on it, and people are actually genuinely growing from it. And at the end of the day, teaching your child music or bringing them into music, it's not a I mean, you're not losing anything at the end of the day. You're teaching a child a skill that they can carry on for the rest of their lives, a skill that they can earn money out of if they need to, a skill that they can just vent to at the end of the day, just have a good time. Something that has brought them closer to other people, and there's nothing wrong in that, man. And I mean, the same could be said for any field. It's like when you're just so dwelled into it, you sometimes forget about religion in general. You're just passionate about something, you're there. You dwell into something, you forget. But it's about how you can just sort of connect both of those. I think that really just strengthens how you can see both of them. And like for me, I'm always thankful that was the case. That even no matter how deep I dived into it, I always remember that, there's a connection here and there's that. And I have to be thankful for what I have and stuff like that. And I think, like I said, and it goes back to the old topic, is that you always have to be grounded as a musician and be humble to understand where you are and how you got here. And I think that religion has really brought that aspect into me and reminded me that, people can do this. And every time someone asks me, oh, I want to play this piece like you, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I always tell them the same thing. I'm like, you can do it as long as you practice. I'm not a prodigy. I'm not a superhuman. I am just like you. I just practiced a lot. That's it. Anyone can do it. And I know that there are people out there better than me, or miles better than me. I know there are composers who are better than me. My aspect is always that if someone is better to me, I will always learn from them. I will never, I never compete with anyone. If someone is not as good as me, it is my job to teach them. And that's how I see life.
Mark of a good artist.
Inshallah, one day.
Inshallah. You this professionally?
Yeah, it's actually a question I get asked a lot about music. I don't know yet, man. I'll be real honest with you. I had my life set before COVID, and when COVID happened, everything just fluctuated, really.
Yeah.
I was thinking far ahead, like 5 years from now, what I would be doing, and where I would be and stuff. And now it's just like, I'm alive. At least that's good, thank God. And it's crazy how that just changed. It's amazing. And like, not just being alive, just sort of living day by day and just kind of appreciating that aspect as well. It's like, it's crazy how that's just changed. And I feel like one thing that this whole COVID thing has taught me how to just appreciate every day as it passes, just remember that you really don't know what's going to happen. If someone were to tell me like a meteor is hitting Earth tomorrow, I'd be like, okay, fine. It's just like, so much has happened this year. It just won't be shocking anymore.
Yeah, at this point, we're just waiting for Godzilla to show up in December, really.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. I love Godzilla a lot, so I wouldn't mind that at all. I'm really excited for the Godzilla versus Kong movie next year, so I'm really pumped up for that. Seeing it live would be amazing.
You mean the live thing that's gonna happen this year, right?
Hopefully. I don't know if Godzilla is like also just taking a break, but hopefully it shows up soon.
No, man, I really hope you and a lot of people who I was talking to, even in the theater episode that I did, everyone is just, all the artists just have this void left in them that they want to perform, and this COVID has kind of halted everyone, and it's so sad to see all these people, but taking life, one day at a time, really. Everything is like, I already had a couple of life stories to explain to me that life is so unpredictable and things are so uncertain. And I've had the most unconventional university experience, and then it ended with COVID. But I thought things couldn't get any more unconventional. it ended with COVID. But yeah, take life one day at a time, because you never know how it's going to turn out. You never know. Maybe something incredible will happen tomorrow. So
Yeah, man,
fingers crossed,
exactly. I
man.
mean, not just tomorrow, man. The next hour could be the hour you've been waiting for your whole life. You
Yeah,
never. It's just crazy. But yeah, I hope that inshallah maybe soon. Like I'm looking for programs that involve composition and film music. So I'm looking at those programs, and inshallah, let's see.
inshallah, inshallah. Why is music important to you?
Oh, damn. I think that several reasons, man. I mean, number one, I think is just it. I think number one for me is that what really matters is like it helps your well-being. It helps you have an outlet of sort to express your emotions in art. I always have a very hard time putting my thoughts into words, like a very hard time. Like I just feel like sometimes my mind thinks so faster than it speaks, and I just end up mumbling the sentence out instead. And I've always had this issue like a lot of the times, um, and sometimes I don't even notice it, and people go like, "Why are you mumbling?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry, harmless. I didn't mean to do that." But like, so I always had this very like difficult thing to do, and then music became an outlet for me to sort of express an emotion that I was feeling. And I think having music as a record to show a specific feeling, it's a very different sort of thing as to just having a word for it. It's like a period that you're going through, and it's like having music for that, and then understanding that you can express that thought and that feeling through music. It's very rewarding, and you feel like you can finally be heard by people. And then I think what was amazing is that I remember when I released my compositions was how different people had taken them in. So a piece that I might have written while I was maybe not in the greatest mood, people ended up loving that piece, and they felt like, oh, this piece reminded them of hope, or of something else, which I might not have been my intention, but it showed me how different people interpret my pieces, when I might not have meant that. And then what that taught me was how every single human being, no matter how alike we are, we have a difference in us that really in how we take in our things and how we have this difference. And that's what really makes us everyone very unique, is that how different we are in that sense. So like you might like, for how I like to describe it is that you can never be in someone's shoes, but you can always be in the same bus. You can maybe somewhat go through the same experience, but you will never have that exact same experience like someone else did. Will go through it completely different. So when I think of it, that's how I think of music. I'm like, when I'm making music, when I'm doing this, I'm not just doing this for myself, but I know that at least one person out there can listen to my music. Maybe they will really like it. Maybe I can make their day better. When I make music, when I perform my music, or when I'm performing other people's music, the idea is always that, as a composer or a performer, my job is to always make sure that if someone's having a bad day in the audience, or if someone's just not enjoying their day, they just had a fight or whatnot, it's my job to make sure that someone make their day better. For me, music is like a different universe. It's like we go there to experience this, and then we come back to reality. But that experience is what truly matters, and it can motivate you to do so much better. It can ground you as a person. So many aspects. It can make your day just genuinely better when you don't realize it. And it's like it's my job to do that as a musician. It's your job as well. When you go into that barbecue night, when you were performing, maybe someone needed to hear that. you know and when I do that, it's the same aspect. It's like you're trying to make people's days better, and especially during these times of COVID, people have looked towards artists to get them out of these situations of distress and anxiety. And they look at us that, like, yeah, music is coming out, music still has to come out, music is still going on. And it just shows that, yeah, labeling music or the arts in general as a field that's not required is just not true. We need all these fields as a survival instinct. you know these were the fields that were entertainment 100 years ago. There was no other thing. There was no TV. There was no like Netflix back then. This was our forms of entertainment, and they're just as important now. For me, that's just it. Like, just understanding that there could be someone out there that I could make their day better with my music, and that they could truly connect with the music and just feel an emotion that they've never felt. I think there's nothing more rewarding for me. Just keep me going for that.
I think that was very well said. I don't really have any more questions to ask you. Do you have any questions you want to ask?
Uh, no, man. I can't think of it on the top of my head. Just keep going with the guitar, though. I mean, I hope you don't stop after the whole COVID thing ends as well.
No, no, I won't stop. So this kind of brings us to the end of our discussion, or I should say, we ended things on a good note.
That was good. I like that one.
Yep, yep, yep. Thanks so much for doing this, man.
No problem, man. Always a pleasure talking to you, Shawki, and I'm glad I could see you again, man.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be meeting in person soon too. I don't know in what capacity, but maybe I'll show up to a piano performance of yours when all this is over. You never know.
I hope so, man. I really hope. I can't wait to get back to performing and just, like it's easy. Like I have my system right here to compose and like the electronic and everything, but it's a different feeling when you can just meet people and show them instead of sending it through WhatsApp.
So true, so true. Do you have something you want to plug?
Plug as in like play.
No, as in like, is there a page that you work on or your work or like,
No, just I guess like I don't really have a YouTube channel. I just have a YouTube channel to upload like a video that I will work on a competition. But usually my work and everything is uploaded on my Instagram, and I don't usually upload my work on Twitter because it's hard to upload full videos and the quality messes up. So I avoid it because I don't want people to hear something that's awful. So I just have my Instagram where I put all my music and if I'm working on any upcoming projects.
Okay, so I will link your Instagram in the description then, so people who are interested can follow that stuff. And okay, so we reached the end of the episode. Please look in the camera and wave bye. So thanks everyone for joining us. Bye guys. Bye. And we are done.